Welcome to The Cynical Developer, the podcast that helps you to improve your development knowledge and career through explaining the latest and greatest in development technology and providing you with what you need to succeed as a developer. In this episode, we talk about PayPal with Drew Angel. Drew is a digital pioneer who loves rolling his sleeves up and identifying software and programming solutions. He is heavily involved with PayPal and is a certified PayPal developer, one of only 13 in the world that has reached the ACE developer status. He's also an official PayPal partner and a PayPal ambassador. And he was also given the PayPal Star Developer Award at the developer conferences in 2008, 2009, and 2011. And now to add to those accolades, he's now been on the Cynical Developer podcast. So welcome to the Cynical Developer.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. It's good to have you on talking about a technology that I used a good few years ago and haven't done a great deal with. And I think a lot of people dismiss it and take it for granted now. So it's good to have the likes of yourself on talking about PayPal. I think it's very much overdue.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, a topic I love to talk about. So happy to be here.
Awesome. So for those people that are either new to development or they've been living under a rock for the last 20 years or so, could you give us a sort of a 10,000 foot overview of what PayPal is?
Sure. Yeah. PayPal, as the name suggests, is a way to make payments or receive payments. And they tie a lot of different things kind of under the umbrella of payments. So PayPal itself is a way to pay where people can kind of use a PayPal wallet as a digital wallet. It's got direct credit cards. Through some of their other platforms, you can tie in Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, lots of variations of that. So they're just a way, kind of an overall payments for sending and receiving and doing it securely and safely. And it's a great way to go about it.
Sure. So as I said, it's been a long time since I used PayPal. And I think the last few payment gateways that I've implemented for clients has not been PayPal or have not been PayPal. Is PayPal still a favored payment gateway?
I would say absolutely. They've still got, nearly 400 million active accounts now, and the brand is kind of speaking for itself. Most everybody knows PayPal and trusts it. So yeah, if you don't have it included as an option on your site, then almost certainly you're losing out on some sales, and your conversion rates might be a little lower than they could be if you add it.
Yeah, I use PayPal quite a lot personally for transactions, but I know a lot of other people have said, "Oh, PayPal, oh no, I'd rather not," which has always confused me, to be honest, because I've never had any issues with PayPal. The only issues I've ever really had were people pretending to have made payments by PayPal with very badly paint shop.
Sure.
Images of, yes, I've sent you this payment.
Exactly. Yep. That sort of thing can come up. In fact, some of our top articles on our website is about PayPal scams and how to avoid them and how to make sure you don't get caught in those nets. So yeah, that's definitely a good thing to know, but it's pretty easy to get around as long as you're not being too quick to the mouse click on things.
Yeah. I think, I said it's been a while since I've integrated with PayPal, and it's probably 10, 15 years since I've done much with PayPal. And back then, it came in three flavors. There was a hosted cart, there was a hosted payment page, and an API. Are these still the only options? From what you said, I guess they're not.
No, there's similar options. So I wouldn't say they're the only options, but there are, they have a lot of different ways to integrate. So they've got just basic HTML buttons you can use. They do still have a wide variety of APIs to do lots of various things. And with those APIs, they are kind of moving most everything to a hosted type of a platform. But it's primarily APIs these days, REST APIs. And when you integrate that, it's again, PayPal kind of hosts it. It drops an iframe of what they call smart buttons into your integration. And those smart buttons, in theory, will be smart enough to display proper payment methods based on the buyer variables, where they're at, what their account history is, the seller information, there's a lot of different variables in play, and it will offer the different, credit cards or PayPal credit, or pay later as they're calling it now. So mostly the APIs, but yeah, lots of different ways to tie that in based on what exactly your goal is.
Awesome. So one of the things I picked up on there was the fact that it's mostly hosted. Now, the big thing that people used to struggle with back in the day, if you like, was the fact that if you were using the payment APIs rather than a hosted option, you had a lot of legislation to consider. PCI DSS compliancy is one of them. Now, I don't know if that is the same compliancy worldwide or if that is just a UK thing, but that was to do with storing of credit card details, CV2 numbers, name and address, and all that sort of stuff. And now we've got GDPR rules in Europe, and there are other counterparts. I think California may have similar rules. I don't think they're coming in other states in America. And I guess is that why they're moving more towards that hosted payment plan?
Yeah, that's definitely a big reason for it. PayPal, they're the ones putting all their money behind those compliances and laws and regulations, making sure it's all good to go. And so then when you integrate their hosted solution, they pretty much take care of most of that for you, and you don't have to worry about it. You can still integrate direct credit card processing yourself if you want to. And if you do, then that does put some of that liability back on you to make sure you're compliant with those things. And outside of your checkout or outside of payment itself, of course, you still need to be careful about, saving any kind of personal private info and giving people ways to clear out requests, clear out of your system if you want to. That's kind of separate from payments. But the actual payment piece, yeah, they handle all that. They make it easy so that you can be compliant and you don't have to carry those liabilities. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like the healthier option, I think, because as a developer, you're always concerned about, am I sending these credit card details in the correct format? Is it the right version of HTTP that I'm using? Have I encrypted it correctly? So it's one less thing to worry about if somebody smarter and better than me is dealing with that. I've always said that's a better route to go down.
Yeah, definitely.
So PayPal was one of the only options for a lot of companies and developers for a long time, especially small companies and small businesses that they couldn't afford the upfront costs of setting up the merchant accounts that they needed and the likes of that for people like WorldPay. I don't think they were called WorldPay originally, and other vendors anyway. But and now that there are so many other options now, there's Stripe and Skrill and Google Pay, Amazon Pay, I think Android Pay is one you mentioned. Why would somebody now choose PayPal over this myriad of other options?
Yeah, so PayPal is still just, I mentioned the branding. They're just very well known. A lot of buyers still prefer them for the security and the ease of payments that it gives you. So, you never have to share your billing information with all the different sellers that you're buying from, for example. So because of that, a lot of buyers like to use it. And if you don't have it on your website as an option, you're probably going to lose sales. So including it as an option is just, eliminates that possibility of losing out on those sales, makes it easier for people to buy from you. And, again, it kind of puts everything under that umbrella. So you can do the credit cards, you can do PayPal, cash payments, bank or PayPal cash. You can tie in the Google Pay and Apple Pay and all those things. So it just gives you kind of a one-stop shop for all that and makes it easy. And again, with the protection it gives buyers and the security it provides for sellers and seller protection, it just really makes things easy. And it's what I use myself and what I typically recommend for my clients that I'm doing integrations with. The fees are also an interesting thing. They have a flat rate. A lot of the other competitors are still doing variable rates of different kinds. And so based on the type of card or based on the type of payment you're receiving, you'll pay different fees. And if there's rewards or like company credit cards or things like that, the fees can be quite a bit higher than a basic personal Visa debit card, for example. So with PayPal structure, they just kind of make all that a flat rate. It doesn't matter what kind of card you take, you're going to pay the same rate, and it's just based on your volume. So the more volume you process, the lower rates you'll get, and it'll be that same flat rate. So you always know what you're paying, which can help out your bookkeeping and cash flow reporting. So yeah, that's what I'd say. That's one of the reasons I like to recommend it, or many of the reasons I like to recommend it.
Sure. So one thing that I picked up on before was the fact that you talked about implementing or it integrates with the likes of Google Pay. Now, when I've used PayPal in the past, you'd always put it on as an option. Do you want to pay with PayPal? And then you often see, do you want to pay with Google Checkout? Do you want to pay with WorldPay? Do you want to pay with your credit card directly? Or do you want to pay in some other way? And you would have to go through and implement every single one of these payment gateways separately. So it was a pain for the developer because you had to implement so many payment gateways, but it was also a cost problem for businesses as well. I guess that PayPal now deals with that from what you're saying.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to do it. There's the smart buttons that I mentioned. They'll tie a lot of that in. The Google Pay and Apple Pay stuff actually isn't part of that, but they do have another payment processor they acquired a while back is actually called Braintree. Within the Braintree integration, it includes PayPal, credit cards, not Amazon, but Google Pay, Apple Pay, all in one single integration. So that makes it super simple if you're wanting that stuff. And a lot of times I'll kind of do a PayPal checkout integration with the smart buttons alongside of a Braintree integration. So the PayPal buttons would be on product pages and the cart page, for example. And then the checkout page is where people could have the other options that might not be the express checkout that PayPal provides. So if you're going to go through the checkout page, that's kind of where you might do a Braintree integration and have all those options. The PayPal smart buttons work great on product pages, cart page, mini carts, kind of throughout the website, different. So depending on placement, you can get the best experience that way.
Sure. So if there's all these hosted solutions now, and the trend now is to build all your front end in a JavaScript framework, which makes things a little bit different for how we would implement and secure payments processing in the past. Does PayPal give you a cart so I can use these PayPal buttons to go and add items to a cart and bring it back to my website and show it on there and keep doing that and then get to the point where I go to checkout and then it's like, yeah, go and pay with PayPal now?
Yeah, but typically you would build into your own shopping cart of some kind. And so they do have options for a cart, though. If you wanted to use their standard buttons, they still kind of have a basic hosted cart for you. It's not the best experience. So typically, everything's pretty much geared towards integrating into your own cart of some kind. So these days we do a lot with WordPress and WooCommerce, and we do a lot of integration into that, building plugins for those types of things, and other shopping carts that people are using is typically where you'll see that integrated.
Sure. So what about mobile devices? We talked about Android, and I'm an Android user. Love me or hate me for it. When I'm in an app in there, is that I pay with Android Pay or Google Pay or whatever you want to call it. And I guess with an iPhone, you use Apple Pay. Can you use PayPal to make purchases through apps on your mobile device?
Yeah, so PayPal does provide a mobile app of their own called PayPal Here, which basically turns your mobile device into a point of sale solution. So that's one way. They've also done strategic partnerships. I know specifically with Google. So now PayPal can be linked up directly to your Google Pay. So even through the Google Pay, you can choose to pay with PayPal. And that's kind of one way they're broadening their reach and expanding, rather than competing with some of these people, they're just partnering with them. And so, yeah, you can use PayPal directly with the PayPal app to pay for things, depending on the seller that you're buying from. Or if they have Google Pay, you can do PayPal through that. I don't think they have it built into Apple Pay yet. but it wouldn't surprise me to see that coming at some point.
Sure. So we've hinted at costs. There was transaction costs and e-merchant setup costs and things like that. Are there any costs to setting up PayPal for a developer and for them to be able to develop against it?
Setup and development, no, there's no cost. And for the most part, really the only cost you're ever going to come across is as a seller, when you receive payments, you're going to pay a processing fee. Depending on if you add some additional features, for example, they have what's called PayPal Pro, and that would be more of their direct credit card processing. So rather than a hosted type of a thing that we talked about, you have full control over all that. And then they do have monthly fees associated with that. I think it's $30 a month is where it starts. Then if you have things like advanced fraud management filters or some of their subscription models that they'll do might carry an additional monthly fee. But for the most part, as a developer and just trying to get up and running, and all the basic or standard integrations that they have are totally free, other than the processing fees that you'll pay for receiving payments.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's always been a barrier to some of the other options that used to be around, is that you would have to have a setup fee, then you'd pay other fees, and then you'd be paying monthly before you even got the documentation to be even to see, is this solution for me?
Some of those competitors are still that way. So you got statement fees and PCI compliance fees and just general monthly fees and all sorts of different fees that they'll tie in there. So that's some of what you just don't have any of that with PayPal. So that's another one of the benefits.
Sure. So I touched on documentation there. PayPal used to have reasonable documentation. What does that community look like now? What's the support out there for developers, for any of the listeners out there that are thinking, oh, I want to go and have a play around with PayPal?
Yeah, so that's come a long ways over the years. They've gone through quite a few different community sites for developers. Now it's just developer.paypal.com, and they've got their brand new, what they call the PayPal Commerce Platform, is their latest and greatest API set. And all their documentation has been updated. So there's still, over the years, they've had lots of different versions of different things they do. So if you start Googling, you might land on some pages of some old stuff, which technically would still work. It's just not the latest and greatest. So if you go straight to developer.paypal.com, that's got all the newest stuff there. And they've really improved their documentation and tried to simplify it to kind of walk you through the steps and hold your hand a little bit. They also have merchant technical support. So paypal.com/MTS for merchant technical support. That's a good place where you can contact them directly with the integration team over there, and they'll help you work out any technical details you might be struggling with.
Sure. And is the Sandbox still available?
Yep, Sandbox is still good. So again, through the developer account, you can create Sandbox accounts, and you can have, buyer and seller accounts so that you can go through when you're building and testing or demoing for clients. You can always use the Sandbox to go from beginning to end all the way through a transaction. It'll allow you to see what it actually looks like in the PayPal account on the buyer side and on the seller side, and just to make sure everything is doing exactly what you expect it to do before you pull that trigger and go live.
Nice. So before we started chatting and organizing this show, I noticed in your bio that you own a company called Git Commits. Could you talk about that? Tell us what that is, because I think the listeners will find that quite interesting.
Yeah, so basically, Git Commits is kind of our take on something that we're doing in partnership with PayPal on top of their new PayPal Commerce Platform, which that Commerce Platform quickly, it kind of separates. It has some basic payment integration, and then it has what they call marketplace integration, and then they have full enterprise type integration. So it has some different layers or different features. And the marketplace is a piece that's really growing right now, and that PayPal is trying to push. So in partnership with them, we developed Git Commits, which is kind of a unique play on a marketplace, which reverses things a little bit. So in this case, if you have, right now we're set up on GitHub, or like myself, this thing was born because we develop a lot of WordPress plugins and WooCommerce plugins. So we're always getting bug reports and feature requests and things like that to resolve. So these issues go on GitHub, and the idea here is we'll just be able to add a bounty or a value on these individual issues, and that becomes the marketplace. So our GitHub or the Git Commits issue library of funded tickets now becomes a marketplace. So then developers or contributors on GitHub can go and complete any of those issues that they feel like they can complete just using the natural, Git workflow. You would submit a pull request to that person, and when they merge your pull request, it pays you instantly and automatically. So again, just kind of turning the GitHub environment / the Git Commits library is where you'll be able to come anytime and just find a library full of funded issues ready to claim bounties.
Awesome. That's really impressive. People, I think they spend a lot of time, a lot of their free time working and helping out with open source software, and don't get any remuneration for it. Mm-hmm. And this, I think, is a good way to give back to the community. How does that work if there are two pull requests for the same bug by two different people? Is it just the first one in that wins, or the best one, or would they both get paid in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, so there's a few ways to handle that. So when you are a product owner on Git Commits, you can, whenever you are adding a bounty or funding your issue, you can choose from like a traditional or a contest type of a style. So if it's traditional, it will allow people to, again, through GitHub or whatever Git platform you're working on, you can communicate with the people and you would choose one. And then once you approve somebody, they would be the one working, and their pull request is, who you would accept. If you choose a contest, then that's basically just saying, hey, this is open for everybody. Whoever wants to submit a pull request can. And as the product owner, I'm going to review them, and I'm basically going to pick a winner. And whoever I merge their pull request, that's the one that will get paid. And of course, we'll expand upon that. We'll be tying in lots of different ways to do that sort of stuff in the future. But right now we have a basic traditional and a contest method. So that's the way that would work.
It sounds like a really good way to get more out of your development team, because you could get rid of their salaries and just say, look, you're going to get paid based on the tickets that you commit. So exactly. Get in there, get those tickets solved, and the more you do, the more you're going to get paid this month.
Right, and that's kind of the idea too. Is obviously, we have an in-house team, and we'll continue to use them and use this platform with them. But also, the ability going forward to get that kind of work done without having to hire developers, without having to go through interviews and all that stuff. You just put it out there, slap a bounty on an issue, put it out there on GitHub, and the world of developers out there now have an incentive to go ahead and complete that issue for you. So the most beautiful thing is when I wake up in the morning, I sit down at my computer and I see a series of pull requests that have come through, and I can quickly review them and accept, pay out. Never had to even talk to the person. I just had good details in my GitHub issue. They found it in the community and knocked it out for me, and they got paid.
Awesome. So I think you mentioned GitHub a couple of times there. Do you have integration with the likes of GitLab and Bitbucket or Microsoft DevOps or whatever they're calling it this week?
As of today, we are GitHub only. So we are just launching this thing, and we started with GitHub. But we absolutely have plans to work in Bitbucket, and GitLab would be the next ones, and expanding from there to tie the rest in. But as of right now, it's just GitHub.
Okay. So do I see these bounties on GitHub itself? Would I go there and could I get up a repo and go, oh, this has got some tickets on that have got bounties on? Or do I have to specifically go through Git Commits?
It'll be easier to browse at Git Commits because that the issue browser there just has nothing but funded tickets. On GitHub, you can see it, but it's in the comments. So whenever you click into an issue, if there's a bounty set, there would be some information there that shows, on this particular issue, there's a $20 bounty, for example. Click here for more info, which would send you into Git Commits to get started on it if you'd like to.
Sure. So if I was to pick up one of those Git commits, I've cloned my repo from GitHub and I've got the code there. Do I need to put specific things into my commits? Do I have to commit to a specific URL, or is it based on? Does Git commit look at the pull request coming in from GitHub through like webhooks or something like that?
Yeah, it looks for the pull. It uses webhooks for all that. And when you make your commits, you would just need to follow the standard practice of adding the issue number to your commit message. And with those issue numbers added, it'll tag everything and link it up accordingly. And then that way the webhooks and everything will tie up and pay out what needs to pay out when that pull request is merged.
Cool. And claiming a bounty, how does that work? Where does that money go to?
So basically, if you're a developer or a contributor on, again, GitHub in this case, when you find an issue that has a bounty that you'd like to claim, you basically just follow the natural Git workflow. You maybe fork that repository, do the work inside your own, submit a pull request, and if and when they accept your pull request, that triggers the payment to you. When you first onboard into the Git Commits platform, you can onboard as a product owner, as a contributor, or both. And that will hook up your PayPal account that first time you onboard into the system. And so it will know where to send the payments or who to pay out from based on which perspective you are. So if you're a contributor claiming a bounty, then when you signed up, you basically gave it permission to submit or claim payments on your behalf. And the product owners would pay out, and that cash would fall directly into your PayPal account instantly.
Sure. So you would link it up to your GitHub account. So it's not going to look at your GitHub and go, oh, well, you're James at cynicaldeveloper.com. That must be where your PayPal is. Because my PayPal could be something else. But because you linked it up, you set that up.
There's actually a couple of steps. Part of the onboarding, when you log in to Git Commits, you'll use your GitHub login, or in the future it would be the Bitbucket or GitLab logins. And then separate from that, you'll connect your PayPal account. So it doesn't matter if that email address is different or anything. When you go through that process, it'll hook it up appropriately.
Sure. Awesome. So for as amazing as this sounds for a developer, getting paid a bit of extra money to do that extra work that you're probably doing anyway is great. But Git Commits or PayPal or both of you have got to make some money out of it. How does that work? Is there a cost to setting up these bounties?
So as the product owner, you don't pay anything. You can add bounties to your issues and get them on the platform. And when you pay out, that's what you'll pay is just your bounty amount whenever you pay, nothing extra. On the contributor side, when you're receiving payments, so again, you'll pay a PayPal fee for receiving payments. And then there's also a Git Commits fee that we collect. Right now, we're at 5%. So the combination of our fee and the PayPal fee is going to come around 8 or 9% in most cases. And that's still very well below, some of the other platforms out there where people might be finding work like this. So we think we're pretty competitive at that rate.
Yeah, and it's definitely a lot lower than what some of the recruitment agencies scrape out of my day rates, I tell you.
Exactly.
So that's all good. So if the listeners want to find out more about Git Commits, where should they go to get involved with that?
The simplest place is just gitcommits.com. So that's GITCOMMITS, gitcommits.com. And we've got some information on there, some explainer videos, some documentation. If you have questions, you can reach out to me directly there and even schedule a meeting with me. I can help walk you through some things if you need it. But it's all pretty straightforward on the website, and that's really the best place to go to get started.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds really good. And if I had any spare time, because I'm quite well known for not doing downtime, I'd definitely be having a look at this. It's really interesting. I'm definitely going to go and have a further read around it, and I'll check out the website. It's definitely sparked my interest. I think when we first talked about it, I wasn't too sure how it would work, but it sounds pretty good, and something that the likes of GitHub and that have lacked. I think they've maybe missed a trick there.
Yeah, we're hoping to step in and fill this little gap and get ahead of the game with it.
Awesome. We're just about out of time for today. As you say, PayPal has come a long way since I've used it in Vengeance, and we mentioned a few other products like Braintree and stuff like that. So maybe there's some shows in that as well in the near future. But we'll have to watch this space and see what we come up with. So that sort of leaves me to say thank you for coming on today. It's been really good talking to you, finding out about Git Commits and about where PayPal is today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me again. It was fun to chat about.
Yeah, not a problem. And for everyone out there, I will include the links to everything in the show notes as normal. But for now, thank you for listening to The Cynical Developer. I'm James Stoddart, and you've been listening to Drew Angel talking about PayPal and Git Commits. If you have any questions about this or any other episode, then drop us an email, a tweet, or leave a comment on the website where you can find all the resource links, show notes for each episode. And if you enjoy this episode, please leave a review on your favourite podcast platform, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is, and help The Cynical Developer to reach more developers around the globe.